Hello and welcome to this video. I'm Marcus Hayes and today I'm back round the garage with both of my Ford Escorts. It's been 2 weeks since I picked up the camera because I've been a bit busy, but I was round here yesterday working on ESTHER, my ST170 powered Mark 1. I'm going to be carrying on with that a bit later, but first I need to turn my attention to Maud, my Mordor Mark 2, because the rattle coming from her clutch pedal is getting right on my nerves and I need to sort it out. I'll see if I can show you the rattle on the camera. I don't know if you can hear that, but if I lean my hand on the clutch pedal, it goes away. Now, I think it might just be the nylon bushes that go in between the pedal and the rod that it swings on being a bit worn. The pedal does move quite a bit. So hopefully changing those nylon bushes will solve the problem. Now I'm hoping I can do this without taking the pedal box out of the car. We'll just have to see. But I'll show you with this spare clutch pedal exactly where the bushes go. Basically, you can see this has got the bushes in. I could have probably used these. These are poly ones, which I think is what's used in all the aftermarket pedal boxes. So basically the rod is obviously going through there and it swings on it when you press the pedal. And the bushes are these things here. Now I bought these nylon ones off of eBay. There's 4 in there, so there's enough to do the brake and the clutch pedal. I also found a listing on there for a full set of nylon bushes for the whole pedal box. So you've got 2 that hold the pin that holds the brake rod to the brake pedal. That has 2 nylon bushes, and there's 2 that hold the accelerator pedal into the pedal box. But I thought I'd save a few quid and get these. These were 12 quid. The full set is 35 quid, but I'll leave a link to both of those in the description of this video. The rod that's going through the clutch and the brake pedal is just held into the pedal box with some R clips, I think. So I'm hoping I can just pop the one off that side, pull the rod through, and then just take the pedal out, change the bushes, and put it back together. That's the plan. Well, that was a lot of hassle. Probably a lot easier to take the pedal box out, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to change the brake pedal one. It looks like this pedal box has got poly bushes in there. But hopefully the nylon ones I've got will stop it making so much noise. So the noise is still there. I'm actually starting to think that it's something to do with the clutch fork itself inside the bell housing, which was what I thought it was originally, but then I noticed that the noise went away when you was riding the clutch. So I thought I might as well try and change the bushes on the clutch pedal. Anyway, I'm going to worry about that another day, because right now I want to crack on with the Mark 1. So yesterday when I was around here, I changed the O-ring that I'd put inside this water rail for a thicker one. And I've also fitted the Allen key bolts now that hold the 2 bits of the water rail together, and I'm not getting any coolant leaks now, so the engine is watertight, which is good. One thing I have noticed when I had it hooked up to the laptop is that the coolant temperature sensor doesn't seem to be working. It's just showing 30 degrees at all times on the laptop when it's hooked up, so I need to look into that. Another thing I started doing yesterday is yet more boring wiring. Now inside here I've got 3 relays, one for the fuel pump, one for the wiper motor, because I needed to wire it through a relay so that I could control the wipers with a switch like this, and then I've got the relay for the ECU. Well, basically I've decided that I'm going to mount them all in one place over here on the passenger side kick panel. So I've mounted 3 of those plastic relay holders, so I'll be extending all the wires from those 3 relays over to here and then wiring up the relays, and then if I need to change a relay in future, it's just a case of pulling it out rather than individually disconnecting all the spade terminals. I've also bought this bus bar. Now I've got all these bits from Car Builder Solutions. As usual, I'll leave a link in the description. Now my plan is that these terminals are all connected together. There's 3 separate banks, and what I'm planning to do is just having one earth going from here to the body, and then the earths that need to come from the relays can all just plug in to here. And then the other 2, I might use one for battery permanent and one for a switched live. So it just tidies up the wiring a bit. And then in future, if I need to add anything else to the loom, all I've got to do is plug into this bus bar. Now I also bought all this wire from Car Builder Solutions. They do a deal on a bundle. Basically there's 10 meters of each colour they do, and I think there's 12 colours, and that came to like 26 quid I think it was. So yeah, it's a lot cheaper than keep going to buy those little reels from Halfords. So not the most exciting job, so I'm not going to film the whole process, but I'm going to crack on with it and I'll catch up with you in a little while. Right, so I've unravelled the loom a little bit on this side, and I found the connection that I made recently that was a switched live to power the ECU relay. And I've connected this thicker wire to it. I can't remember what ampage it is, but it's well overkill for what I'm using it for. I got this on eBay. I'll leave a link in the description if anyone's interested. But basically, I've run it through the dash and I'm going to wire that up to the bus bar, and this is going to be the feed that's basically powering all those relays. Right, so the power feed that was going to the ECU wiring loom via the relay, I'm going to extend to the other side of the car as well. And I've actually got a roll of Halfords 17 amp red wire. Right, that's sorted. These joints have been twisted, soldered, and then I've put heat shrink and then tape, so it should be sweet. And I've got 2 red wires poking out over there. Right, so that just leaves the other 2 relays. This one's for the wiper motor. This one's slightly different. This relay sends a current one way when it's off and another way when it's on, and that's to do with getting the wipers to self-park. It's really complicated. I'm just going to extend the wires from where they are, and hopefully it'll work like it did before. Right, so for the fuel pump relay, I don't think I need to extend any of these wires, because the fuel pump wires run down this A pillar. So for the fuel pump relay, basically I can just get rid of all these, just cut them back. Right, I'm not going to cut these back yet. I've unplugged the relay, taped the ends up so that the wires can't touch, and I've just labelled it. I think I should just get it all working with the relays over there, and then start cutting wires out, just in case I make a mistake. Right, so I've removed the wiper switch from the dash, and I've now got the wiper relay off of the loom, and I've just labelled everything up. But these 2 wires here that need extending, one's green and one's brown. Because I bought the bundle from Car Builder Solutions, I can actually use a green and a brown wire to extend them over to where the relay is going to be. Right, so I've added extensions to most of the wires. I've got to do this one now, which comes off of the wiper motor switch and then connects to pin 85 on the relay. All of the connections like this go into switches. I'm going to be redoing all those spade terminals and adding these covers onto them. So I might as well do this one now, because I need to extend this wire. And I've got these covers and these new spade terminals that I'm going to be using today, all from Car Builder Solutions. So see the description for the link. Right, so where I'm at now, all those extension wires are taped to the original loom, and they're all poking out here. And this is that black one that goes to the switch. But the first thing I'm going to do now is get the switched power to the bus bar, and then start wiring the relays off of that. Right, so a few hours later, this is taking way longer than I expected. It's starting to get dark now anyway, so I'm going to have to start packing up. But I'm going to continue this video next time I'm around here, which might not be for another week or so, but I'll see you in a sec. Hello. So it's now the next day, and I'm back round the garage. I didn't think I'd be round here today, but I managed to free myself up. Right, so I've already had another play with Maud's clutch pedal. It was just as noisy as it was before I fitted the bushes when I was driving home last night. But today I noticed that there was quite a lot of room between the washer and the little shim that was there and the clip. In fact, there was enough room for me to add 3 washers to it. And now I've done that, it does seem a little bit better. Certainly when I've turned the engine on and tried to rev it to get it to rattle, it seems like the rattle is a lot less. So I'll just have to see how it is when I drive it later, but hopefully that's sorted. So now I'm going to crack on with the wiring inside ESTHER. Right, so this is where I'm at. I've got the bus bar powered by the switched live, and then I've just about powered up the relay, which will be the fuel pump relay. Right, so I'm going to make the next relay along for the ECU, which, the same as a fuel pump, it's just supposed to switch on when the ignition is on. So I need to just make a wire similar to this to power it, and then hook the output onto this red wire that I'd already hooked up earlier to the ECU power wires. Yeah, some of these wires I'm using are too thick for these covers. I mean, that just about goes on, but earlier on I was using even thicker wire. So what I do, just slide it onto a screwdriver, give it a bit of heat. You can sort of persuade it to be a bit bigger. And it slides on there, no problem. Right, so I've got the ECU relay holder wired up now. So both of these are powered up now, I just need to run an earth from each one. So now I'm going to concentrate on the wiper motor relay. And I've still got the wiper motor relay with all the wires labelled. So I just need to cut all these to the right length, put the connectors on the end, and then plug them into the holder so that when I put this relay into the holder, it's all wired up. Right, so I've got the third relay holder wired up now, and now I'm going to make the 2 earth wires for the first 2 relays. Right, I've got a problem. These connectors don't seem to be locking into these relay holders properly, but I've just found the actual ones that I did buy with the relay holders, so I'm going to change all these over. Wiring is such a mission. Right, so hours and hours have passed. Basically, I had all the relays mounted and wired up, and then I was testing if everything was working, and the ECU and the fuel pump worked fine, but the wipers didn't. I've unravelled all of the wiper motor wiring, and I've basically started again, and I've had to suss out what wire needs to go where in terms of wiring up the relay. I've got it to the point now where if this green wire that's hanging here is touching the green wire that I've got hooked up to the switch, then everything works sweet. Now the day is running out, so I'm going to start packing up soon, but I've got it to the point where the wipers do actually work, but I'm going to have to come around here another day and actually tidy up the wiring and tie it all back, and then obviously mount the relay, and then everything should work. So I'm going to continue this video next time I'm around here, so I'll see you in a sec. Hello, so days and days have passed since the last clip, and I'm now back round the garage with a Mark 1. I have been round here a couple of times since then and done a few bits off camera, so I'll just explain where I'm at now. Right, so after I thought I'd got all the wiring correct for the wiper motor going through the relay, I came round the next day to tidy it all up, and then when I was testing it, it just kept blowing the fuse. So I've decided to completely change the way that the wiper motor is wired up. I'm doing away with the relay, and I've now got an aftermarket wiper switch, which is very similar to the original Mark 1 Escort one. I got this from Car Builder Solutions, and it's got 4 pins, very similar to the original Mark 1 switch. I haven't got the bit of the loom that plugs into the original Mark 1 switch to test it, but I think that might literally just plug into the Mark 1 loom, because I remember the pins being offset like this. Now, the way that this is wired up is very simple. When the switch is on speed 2, these 2 pins connect. Now, the red one is like speed 2, and the brown one is like what I would call normal earth. And then when the switch is in the middle, it connects these middle 2 pins. So you've still got the normal earth, and that's connected to the green wire now, which is speed 1. When it's in the off position, it activates these 2 pins, so you've still got speed 1 power coming into the switch, but then it goes off to the other earth, which I would call the park earth, which basically means that when you switch the wipers off, they'll keep going until they're rested and then stop. And I think your wipers have to self-park to actually get a car through an MOT, so it's pretty important. So I've basically lengthened all the wires, and I've got this switch wired up now. So we've got speed 1, speed 2, and then if I switch it off, they'll carry on until they're parked. Now where I'm going to mount that switch is actually where the original headlight switch would have gone in the dash. My headlight switch was already switched to an aftermarket one, which was coming through this hole, and I've now moved the headlight switch over to the switch panel, and then yeah, I'm just going to have the wiper switch here. Unfortunately, you can't get a switch that looks like this that operates in the same way that this one does, so I'll just keep this one out of sight, and then all the ones in the switch panel will look the same. Now this switch is slightly shorter than the original Mark 1 one, but annoyingly it's also slightly fatter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a Dremel or a burring bit on a drill and just open that up slightly. So rain has stopped play, hopefully not for long. I don't normally like leaving the Mark 1 out in the rain, but she's well overdue a rinse to get rid of the dust and dirt on her, so not too worried about it this time. While I'm cooped up in here, I'll briefly discuss a problem I've had with Maud. The other day I went to start her up when I was leaving here to go home, and basically the starter got jammed on. Even when I took the key out, it was still on. So I scrambled around for a spanner in my garage and disconnected the battery terminal, which stopped it. I tried hitting it with an hammer and testing it again, but it still gets jammed on. So at the moment, I've got the racing starter motor fitted to Maud, the power light one, and it doesn't really engage with the ring gear on the flywheel properly. If you remember, I had to bore out the holes to the starter motor just so that I could push the starter a little bit closer to the flywheel, and I don't really want to do that with a power light starter. So at the moment I'm just push starting the car, and then once the new starter motor comes, I'll switch them round and I'll do the same modification to the new starter. I'm just going to buy another cheap one. I think moving forward I need to swap the IK engineering flywheel for a turbo sport one, which is the one that I got on the Mark 1, because I've got a feeling that those IK engineering ones aren't very good. I've heard since buying the flywheel that some of their products are a bit oriental, so the quality control's a bit hit and miss. Sometimes you get bits off them they're good and sometimes they're crap. I'm not going to bother hassling them for a refund until I've changed the flywheels over, and then we'll just see what happens. So moving forward I need to get a better flywheel for Maud. I already need to find another clutch to use, because obviously I found out recently that the AP racing ones aren't to be trusted anymore. So I'll sort all of that out, hopefully in the winter. I can just limp her by for now, and then in the winter I'll change the clutch and the flywheel. Yeah, this does need quite a lot of meat taken out of it. These cheap burrs ain't up to the task. Right, so that's the switch in. I've noticed now that this part of the dash is like on a curve, whereas the switch is straight, so it doesn't really sit in there flush perfectly. I think long term I'm going to have to come up with some sort of solution where I probably glue the switch in or something. But for now, the wipers work. So that's all good. I still need to finalise the length of these wires going to the switch, but I'm going to add a connector block close to the switch. I've ordered it from Car Builder Solutions, so once that comes I'll finalise all this and then add the connector, so that if I do end up having to glue this switch into the dash and later on I need to move the loom out the way or anything, I can just unplug it from the multi-plug. Now I've already lengthened the wires for the headlight switch, which is now over here, and all the connectors have got the rubber covers on. So that's all finalised. There's enough length there for it to attach to the switch panel. So over here we have my little bus bar and relay arrangement. Obviously I don't need the third relay now, so there's only two. But I'm going to mount this one here anyway. I've already drilled a hole in the body for that to mount to. and it'll also give me an opportunity to just carry around a spare relay. So if any of these ever mess up, I've got two similar to this in the engine bay as well. I'll have a spare one there. I might even leave these wires attached. I can't think of a reason off the top of my head, but if there was ever a reason when you're out and about to wire up a circuit with a relay for an emergency, then that'll enable me to do that as well. So that'll be mounted to there, and then the wires will just be tucked up with the rest of them. Let me know what you think of this bus bar idea. Obviously, I could get rid of that and just solder all these earth wires together, and then make sure that all these power wires are hooked up together. It does look a bit messy with all the wires, but I suppose if I was to fit a kick panel later on, I could have most of that covered up and then just have a hole in it for the relays to poke through. So yeah, let me know what you reckon of this little setup. It's certainly a lot better having the relays over there rather than just hanging down behind the switch panel. Another thing that's not fully finalised yet is this little arrangement. Now, all these are earths. Two of them come from the cigarette lighter and its bulb, and one of them comes from the reverse light switch on the RX-8 gearbox. This brown wire is the original wire from the ESCORT loom that would have been plugged into the reverse light switch, and then I've got another wire going to the other side of the RX-8 switch, which connects up to these earths, and this one here is connected to the body under there. So once I know that I don't need to add any more earths or anything, all this will get tidied up as well and wrapped in with the loom. And for anyone who's interested, there's two sets of two wires coming out of the RX-8 6-speed. One set comes out of the passenger side and one set comes out of the driver's side of the gearbox. Now, the one that you want for the reverse light switch is the two wires that are coming out of the driver's side of the gearbox. The other set of wires is for a circuit on the Mazda RX-8, which means that you can't start the car unless the car is in neutral. So those wires allow continuity when the gearbox is in neutral. So these wires connect to the wires that are coming out of the reverse light switch on the gearbox. I'm going to be adding a two-way connector block underneath the car for that as well, so in the future if I need to remove the gearbox I can just unplug it there and leave all the loom where it is. So once that connector block comes, I'll be able to finalise that as well. I mentioned before that I don't actually need that many more parts for this car before I can actually put it on the road. So I need some rear shocks, I need some harnesses for the bucket seats, I need a fan for the radiator, and I need some trumpets for the ITBs. There is another couple of things I've thought of though which need to be done as well. Now I still need to fit and plumb in an oil catch can for this car. I'm going to be reusing the one that was fitted to the car when it had a Pinto in it about 5 years ago. It's just a cheap one, it doesn't even have a baffle in it or anything, but it'll do. It's got two ports on it and it's got a breather on top, which I'm going to get a new breather for it. I need to plumb one of those ports into the rocker cover here, and then the other one into this thing down here, which is attached to the original flame trap. Now I've got the catch can at home at the moment. I was cleaning it out yesterday with some soapy water, but in terms of plumbing it in, I really want to get some hose that looks the same as this fuel hose that I've used, which costs quite a few quid. So I'm going to need to get a couple of meters of that. The catch can has blue fittings fitted to it. Before I had like silver fuel pipe and blue and red fittings, so that's still got the blue fittings from the old setup. I might change to black ones or just paint them black for now and then buy the hose, and then that's done. The other thing I was thinking of is another job involving some hose, and basically I need to have a hose coming from this breather on the top of the fuel tank, and I'll run it round the back there and it will come out where these hoses already are, and then it goes out this hole here and then it will poke out just behind the bumper there. Now this tank also has a fitting here, which is a breather, and I'm guessing as well, like if you spill anything then it all just goes back into the system. But because I don't have a proper sort of rally firewall, I don't think I'm going to hook that one up, because I don't want it breathing inside the boot. I need it to be breathing out that hole. Again, I want to try and get some hose that's similar to this. So that's just another couple of bits that I thought of since the last time I spoke to you. Nothing major, but that hose is quite expensive, so it's just another expense that I'll have to budget for. I'm also thinking that before I actually get the car MOT'd, I might send it off to Chris Todd to be tuned. I don't want to risk losing an engine on the way to the MOT station or on the way to the tuning. I blew an engine up 5 years ago on the way to the rolling road, and it's not a nice experience. So I'm thinking about getting it transported to tuning and then drive it to the MOT place once it's running sweet. So that's another expense I'll have to think about. But she's still getting really close to being back on the road. The summer is running out fast, so we'll just have to see what happens, but I'm confident that I'll be able to get it out at some point this year. So I'm going to end this video here. Sorry it was so sporadic and all over the place, but I hope you got something out of it anyway. If you've got any questions about anything I've talked about today, do let me know in the comments and I'll get back to you. If you thought this video was any good, please do give it a thumbs up and a share. If you thought it was shit, give it a thumbs down. Click subscribe and activate the notification bell to be kept right up to date with any other videos that I post in the future. Make sure you check out my Facebook and my Instagram, and I'll leave the links you need for that in the description as well. Until next time, thanks for watching.